Hi, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about Slumberland on Netflix with Jason Momoa. Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So anything you want to say first?
Question you want? Go ahead and smash and swipe and subscribe if you can. If you want to listen to me and my sister discuss movies, we sometimes do a kind of a deep dive into the movie, there and about. But today we're going to do another question for the audience and for my sister is what werewolf movie, 2014 werewolf movie was Jason Momoa a star of?
Okay.
That's the question. It's actually a pretty simple answer. I will tell you at the end.
Okay.
I actually saw it. That's the reason. I saw it quite a long time ago. Okay, so.
All right. Well, I'll give my review and what I thought of the movie. Hated it so much. I did not like the movie. It started out fairly interesting. But then all went downhill from there. I really felt like it was, even though it was a kids movie, it could have been so much better. I felt like they phoned it in. It was just a fast food movie. That's what I call it, Netflix sometimes, fast food film. So that definitely, to me, translated on this film. I thought it was just, I didn't believe it. I thought he was silly in the movie and ridiculous. Jason Momoa, I just thought it was beneath him. I was shocked that he did this film. And it reminded me of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I don't know who made that film, but
Robert Rodriguez, I think, made that movie.
Okay. I'd rather watch that movie, which I thought was funny, but kind of like in a way endearing, and like my kids had it on or whatever back in the day when we actually had cable and we kind of watched the same things. I'd rather watch that movie than this movie again. Really did not enjoy it. Yeah, it did not pass my fast forward rule. I fast forwarded it because I just couldn't take it. And that's it. Hated it. So
hated it. Well, I did not hate it. Oh, you finished with your?
I'm done. Yeah.
She's done with it. She hated the film. Me, I'm always a little bit more. I mean, I can watch the worst film of all time. I have watched I've actually hunted them down and watched some of the worst films of all time. But usually the really, really bad ones are the ones that are, it's just a camera in a room, and then nothing else is happening except for that, just a camera in a room. Or literally, I've seen those kind of movies. Like professors show them just to show you how crazy you can get. But for me, it was still a bit tedious. I did find it tedious, but it has when I did do some research on it, it has a very interesting history. It was actually a comic strip developed by this guy named Winsor McCay in 1905. It came out as a comic strip and is considered probably one of the greatest comic strips of all time. Mm-hmm. It was a used Art Deco. They say his genius for setting up the panel. This is if you're a cartoonist, setting up the panels and doing all this amazing stuff with this little Nemo in Slumberland. That was the actual name of the comic strip. It went from 1905 to 1927. So throughout the war, throughout the Spanish flu, throughout the Roaring Twenties. So I don't know why it died in 1927. I can't remember what I read. I think he just tired of doing it. He was doing other projects too. He was a real for his time, he was a real multimedia guy. He was one of these guys. He direct a theater. He would do the cartoon. He would, this guy was involved in a lot of different things, right? So a real genius. So over time, they've done, I don't think many adaptations of this story. They did a cartoon in the 1980s, which I'm not very familiar with. I wasn't familiar with this at all, actually, but I got very interested I did look up some of the panels, and yeah, it's very beautifully done. And so he would have one little, and he was also because in those days, psychotherapy and Freud and Jung and all these guys were coming into becoming famous. So his knowledge of dream states and everything was very deep. So he knew a lot about that since he was a genius, evidently. And that's what I found interesting about the movie. I wasn't a big fan. I thought it was a tired production. I thought the production itself was fairly handsome. You know, it was fairly nice looking, right? They had, you know, the production values are pretty good. Jason Momoa as the comedian, as the you know, she's the straight girl and he's the comic. It wasn't very, his comic timing's not great. And I think he really wanted to do a comedy. I saw him on a talk show and he said he was really wanted to do a comedy. So he did this one and he wanted to do something, you know, he didn't want to be the macho man, you know. I mean, even though he kind of played the macho man, a guy who wants to be a macho man, you know, showing off his gut and all this stuff, you know, his unattractive side, you know, like I've seen some other actors like Zac Efron played in this one movie recently, which was actually a pretty interesting movie. I just can't remember the name of it. Where he gets attacked by all these dogs. It's like he came up and he says, you know what? I want to play somebody really ugly. Because it's like, you know, because these actors, you know, they're known for their good looks and stuff, and they want to do something, you know, where they show off some of the ugly side of their characters.
And I say, just wait until you get a little older, buddy. Just wait.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
That's what I mean, but you know.
Yeah, I was an angelic child and young adult, but now I've turned into the beast. But yeah, so very nice. But another interesting thing about it, they did a gender change to stay woke because the little Nemo is a boy, not a little girl. So they did the gender change. The movie in the 80s was stuck with the story. The famous they call it the famous walking bed, of course, comes from the comic strip. That was a big part of the comic strip. And to me, I thought the first act was okay, the way they set it up. I found the second act dreary. It took me, I had to keep turning it on and off and coming back and trying to, you know, use my own tomfoolery to, you know, think about dream states and everything, which I thought that, again, dreaming is a very interesting thing in nightmares and all that, you know, all that the psychology around dreams. It's fascinating. They could have kind of dived into that a little bit more. But it's just a lot of running around, right? From what I could tell from the second act. The third act was the best. I thought the third act was pretty good because then they started bringing in some themes that they could have used at the very beginning. You know, with the uncle and everything, right? It's like all of a sudden, so again, I don't know. I'm sure they must have worked on the script. I mean, you know, it's based on a famous comic strip. It's world famous, evidently, that I knew nothing about until I started researching it. And evidently it's, you know, considered a work of great art for the comics. It's influential, you know, in all the comic. If you're a cartoonist, it's one of those things you have to learn about, right? I assume. And Winsor McCay. But other than that, I'm going below 50%. I would give it 10% because I did enjoy. Have to be honest. At the very end when they did the credits, I don't know if you watched the credits with all the little cutouts and everything and the 3D. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the 3D. So if you're really not into these kind of movies, but you like to watch some nice design, and watch the credits. They last about 2 minutes, if that long. But the credits were beautiful. And I think they should have done the whole movie that way. I think the credits they were trying to like maybe recall what Winsor McCay was trying to do, because evidently his style was groundbreaking at that time. You know, and he also experimented with film. This guy did everything. He was, like I said, a multimedia artist and a genius. But unfortunately, this movie doesn't you know do him justice. You know, the critics hated it like you did. Again, I don't want to give it, but I would give it below 50% just because the production was okay. Jason Momoa was sadly miscast. I thought the little boy in the truck was fantastic. I'm driving my truck. Every time you get into the truck, I'm driving my truck. I go, fantastic. You're driving your truck. I thought he was great. But other than that, and there was very few characters. It was just a real limited cast, right?
Mhm.
It was just a lot of green screen, you know. So they probably went in, shot it, and the actors came in, shot it in a few days, a week at the most, if that long. And then the rest was all you know, because I looked at the credit. Oh my God, this is an army upon armies of digital artists, right? Working on
Yeah,
this thing.
those are
So
the stars.
those are the stars. And I didn't even look up the director because there just wasn't that, it wasn't, you know,
Yeah,
it just wasn't, you know, I
not
don't know
worth it.
who produced it. Yes, Netflix produced this. It was just one of these, and I watched some
Forgettable.
producer from Netflix. I don't know. I don't want to say forgettable because these kind of movies have a tendency to pop up 20 years later and become little cult hits, you know,
Mhm.
that were, and you always read some critic writing about it. So this was, they hated this movie when it first came out, but now it's considered one of the, you know, one of the great films of the dream
We shall
genre,
see.
or whatever, right? Uh,
We shall see.
but I'm not saying I'm not saying that at all. As far as entertainment value, I have to admit, I kept turning it off and coming back, turning it off, coming back, I just couldn't sit through it the entire time. Versus when I watched Pearl the other night, I couldn't stop watching the damn thing. And look forward to talking about that one. So it was. I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna pour my water now for my big glass review, and I'm gonna give it a little bit below 50%, just because the production values, and you got Jason Momoa, which I always like, but in this case, it wasn't one of his finest pieces of work. It's around 40% or so. What else can I say that's good about it? I'm looking for things to say. Oh, I enjoyed the guy from the It crowd, the uncle, but it was again a bit of a bland performance, even from him, right? The Irish actor. If you're familiar with the It crowd, it's like one of my favorite shows. It's a fantastic show that you can watch it on Netflix. It's like a little sitcom from England, but it's funny as hell about these IT guys, and he's one of the stars. And but he's gone on to do a lot of American movies. But this one, I don't know how he got hooked into doing this thing.
Well,
Sadly for him.
I'm sure he thought it was going to be fantastic. I mean, Jason Momoa. Hell, I call me up. I'm in. So
Yeah. And the girl was okay. It was definitely her first movie, so you know,
it's fine.
it was fine. It's just the whole production just was not. And I've read about some of these, or seen some of these Netflix producers talk about these things that misfire on Netflix, and you know, they have all different kind of reasons why everything goes sideways.
Yeah.
And this would be another one of those sideways, you know, what the hell happened to this movie type thing, right? What the hell happened to Slumberland, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, I watched it from a child, tried to watch it from a child's point of view. I was just wondering what children would think of this movie. I really wanted to think what they got out of it.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, you as a child, you're kind of locked into your dream world sometimes and having dreams, and I mean, I still am. I'm a big child at heart, so I kind of watch it from a child's point of view. But even then, it wasn't helpful. You know, I mean, if you're looking at the classics like Wizard of Oz or some of other great children's classics, you know, it just wasn't there. But it did follow the children's formula very well, because I'm fairly familiar with how you write a children's story, and it did. You know, you get rid of the parents. You got to get rid of the parents because you have to have the free will, and they did that right at the beginning, right? Kill the mother before she's even on screen. Kill the dad 5 minutes into the movie. Spoiler alert. And then now she's kind of a free agent to explore all her her issues and start her adventure, right? So they follow the formula, the children's formula right down the line, which maybe it shouldn't. I don't know. Again, this children's stories are funny because they follow a very specific formula, and almost every children's story is exactly the same. It's just a different. You just take the It's like a lot of different genres. You just take the ingredients and you just remix them for your own, you know, like the Gothic or the Southern Gothic. You just same ingredients, they just mixed in a different way. But this case, again, like we say, the cake fell in the oven. Didn't quite make it out of the oven in one piece. So that's as much as I can talk about it. So 40% and 0%. She had an empty glass. Is that your first empty glass?
Yes, it didn't pass my fast forward test. So
didn't pass the test. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Me, I'll just stop it, walk away, do something, come back a little later.
I got too much going on in my life. I don't
Yeah. I'm retired, so I can chill like that. But anyway, thank you for watching. And now let me cover the question. So what do you think? In 2014, it was a horror movie with Jason Momoa.
Was it a remake of Werewolf in London? I don't know.
No, it was not a remake. They've never remade that movie, which I always think they should, but they never have.
I don't know. Then I don't know.
Well, it was called Wolves. Strangely enough, about werewolves. It's called Wolves, and I can't remember the plot line very well, but I remember he stood out, Jason, because he wasn't a big star at that time, and I thought, oh, this guy's pretty good, right? Yeah. So it was, and then he was later on in a series, a couple of series on Netflix and on different streaming services that I've enjoyed. So before he did Aquaman. So yeah, so this is for Jason Momoa, 5 steps forward and 6 steps back. Poor guy's got to start over again. But that's the way it is. I'm sure he'll recover. Okay, so thank you, Internet.
Was helpful.
What's that?
I'm sure the paycheck you received from Netflix.
Yeah. Well, he did say he wanted to do a comedy. That was the main reason for doing it. And the original Flip was a clown, not whatever. I don't even know what the hell that guy was. A ram? What was he supposed to be? Yeah. So the original Flip was a clown. So and the original Nemo was a boy. So I mean, they played around with it quite a bit, which maybe they shouldn't have. But I mean, clowns are kind of scary. But scary is sometimes good. I mean, he was kind of scary in a weird way, but not really. I don't know. Like I said, I would love to have seen what a child thought of this movie. Get a child's critique, right? It's always important, especially for a children's film or a children's story. All right. Well, thank you, Internet, for coming tonight and listening to us rabble about Slumberland. And it's if you want to try it and you want to experience it, and again, some people might like it.
Yeah. Let us know.
Let us know. All right. Good night.